Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. First item is roll call.
Councilmember Barnes.
Here.
Dumbuya.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Rowan.
Here.
Venslus.
Here.
Teal.
Here.
Mayor Spooner.
Here. Pledge allegiance.
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second item tonight is approval of the agenda.
Mayor Spooner,
Yes, Mr. Ross.
I would like to make a motion to move item 8G, the resolution 25-244, acceptance of the 2024 audited financial statements, to the beginning of item 8, items for discussion, if nobody else minds.
You understand that?
Fine with it. Yep.
All those in favor of the amended agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Presentations and introductions, we have none tonight. Approval of the minutes of September 9th, 2025, and the September 26th, 2025 special city council meeting.
Mayor Spooner?
Yes.
Went through the meeting, the minutes, and I did not see our discussion on the preliminary tax mission and vision statement.
Those are in work sessions, so we take notes for those, but we don't ever publish those or have you formally approve those notes.
Okay.
But they are available for inspection in the city clerk's office.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for those two meetings.
So move.
Second.
Yes. Motion by Dambuya, second by Ross. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Motion passes. Tonight, request to be heard. I believe we have one request to be heard tonight. Would you like to come forward? Roll. 3 minutes.
Well, thank you for hearing me. My husband and I moved to Faribault from Cannon Falls in September of 2020. I did reach out to the city about the water quality that comes to our house. There was a lad that came, hooked up a hose to the main in my basement, and this is my water. And I just was wanting to see if any of you would bathe or drink in this. And I have been being told, oh, we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it. And it's not getting fixed. And in 2021, they were going to fix it in 2022. It didn't happen. I'm sorry, 22. And they said in 23 it didn't happen. And then in 24, we had the floods. So I thought, well, just be patient. And now it's the end of 2025, and here I am with this water. Now, no, I don't drink this water. My son put in an reverse osmosis in the sink, and that's what we drink. But we have to bathe in this, and I wash my clothes in this. I mean, I pay my water bill every month. I've never not paid it. It's never been late. Guys, bathe and drink and live with this, if this is what you paid for. That's why I'm here, because something needs to be done. And I know you can't fix the dead-end water main now that the season is almost over, but there has to be, there's a lot of great, smart minds here. There has to be a fix for my husband and I. And my husband's handicapped. You know, he's in the military and he worked all his life. Doesn't deserve water like this. And Culligan Water was there at the house when the city water technician hooked up the hose to my main. So they were there and they tested it. I have those results, and I'm sure you're not going to have a great problem solve right now, but do you have any questions of me?
What was the address?
502 13th Street Northwest.
And your name is Cat Roll. Please state your name for the record, please.
Oh, Cat Roll, my forum, it's Catherine Roll, R-O-H.
Ms. Roll, is your water always every day? That's what it looks like.
Yeah, some days it's a little less. I have pictures if you'd like to see them of what the bathtub looks like when I'm going to get in it. This is the worst I've ever seen it, but my shower is indicative of this because the floor and the walls and my husband's shower chair is just red rust. Shower curtain, I have to wash it all the time because it's all rusty.
Okay, thank you.
You said it's been like that for the past 3 years? 3 years for the past 3 years?
We've been there since 2020, but I reached out in 2021 and then 22,
How many times would
Yeah.
you say you've reached out to?
in when did he come? 2023, it was 4 or 5 times, but other than that, it's once or twice a year. They're going to make it so the water doesn't just stop at my house or right after.
Okay, I want to thank you. We're past the 3 minutes, and I appreciate you emailing us with this the other night and bringing it to our attention. And we've talked to staff, and now that we know about it, let's hopefully we can get some progress on this situation for you. Thank you. All right, on to item 6, consent agenda items. Or consent agenda items 6A through 6M.
Mayor Spooner,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through 6M.
I'll second.
Motion by Ross, second by Roan to approve 6A through 6M.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Hearings we have none. Approved agenda, we are going to jump ahead to item G, Resolution 2025-24, acceptance of the 2024 audited financial statements. Jessica.
Yes, I'm going to introduce my role in this will be basically as controlling the presentation, but I do want to introduce Ryan Engelstead with Bergen KDV. He is our audit manager and is here to do a presentation for you tonight. The full audit report did go out into the packet, so it is available for you to review, though it is hundreds of pages long, and so it's not one that I expected you to review for tonight, but Ryan's going to hit the high points of it.
Thank you, Jessica. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here to present the results of the audit work that we did for the city for the 2024 year. And as Jessica mentioned, the deliverables that we provide as far as the audited financial report and a separate communication letter, it's 250 pages of information. So what we do to condense that and communicate the key items to you is in a slide deck here of 15 or so slides. I'll take you through that information, audit results, and then some financial analysis and commentary with that. But I'll try to keep my presentation here to 10 minutes or so, and certainly if there's any questions as I'm going through or at the end, feel free to raise those. So if we move ahead just one more slide here. So there's a few different reports that we issue as part of the deliverables. So at the front of the financial report is our independent auditor's report with regards to the financials specifically. There's 3 pages of information that's included in there. The one section that gets the most attention by the users of the report is the opinion section that comes first. As noted here on the slide deck, the type of opinion that we are providing and that the city is accustomed to receiving is what's referred to as an unmodified or clean opinion. So that's the optimal result when it comes to the set of audited financials. That's what bond rating agencies, the state auditor's office, other grantor entities are looking for. when they go to your financial report, just to give them comfort that they can have reliance on the information that's included therein. So that is, again, the optimal or best achievement in that regard that can be obtained. There is additional information about responsibilities just from a very high level. Our duty as the auditors is to design and execute an audit approach that meets the relevant professional standards, that puts us in a position where we can provide that opinion with reasonable assurance that there would not be any material misstatements that would go undetected as part of the process. That term reasonable assurance in the context of the audit standards is meant to provide a high level of confidence, 90 to 95% confidence that there would not be anything material that would go undetected as part of the process. So, and then in addition to that, there's 2 separate reports that we issue that are part of a separate communications letter. And within there, one is in regards to, or required under government auditing standards, really touches on internal controls that are in place for the city. And the information that's included within that report provides definitions and just some context around our duties as far as gaining an understanding of the controls that are in place and ultimately what we would report on. If there was anything that was considered a material weakness or significant deficiency, those are the types of things we'd call out in detail in that letter. But pleased to report there wasn't anything that we identified as part of our procedures that rose to those reportable thresholds. And things like segregation of duties would be a common one. So if an entity that's being audited doesn't have appropriate checks and balances in place for having a separate set of eyes, looking at information, approvals, things like that, that's a common one that could be reported. So just to give, again, some further context to what type of findings would surface, it would be things like that, but again, a clean report for the city. And the last one is in regards to Minnesota legal compliance. So the state auditor's office, they publish a lengthy guide that we have to utilize as an addendum to our normal audit programs. And really what it does is it hones in on the relevant state statutes that municipalities have to adhere to when it comes to a variety of things. For example, bidding and contracting, the deposits and investments that are in place, ensuring that the banks have pledged appropriate collateral that's over the FDIC coverage, all of those things. So the types of procedures we went through to address those relevant statutes, again, they're a very positive result, nothing that surfaced in terms of a reportable finding in that regard. Okay. Well, that gets us then to some discussion on just the financial results for the year. And within the graphs that we include here, it does provide a 5-year trend, just to give some additional information and kind of that a further look as to what has transpired. So looking first at the general fund, and then we'll move on to the enterprise funds for the utilities, et cetera. So for the general fund, this first graph looks at the fund balance as well as the cash and investments position for the fund. And you can see over the course of the 5 years presented, it's grown from about $10.5 million up to about $14.5 million at the end of 2024. Within the fund balance total, a common, with the bifurcation that's included within the financial statements of overall fund balance, the category that gets the most attention is the unassigned fund balance, as that represents dollars that are truly available to cover, day-to-day operating cash flow needs of the city. And the total of the 14 million, about 12 million is in that unassigned fund balance category. And then the other metric that's looked at is looking at how much coverage does that unassigned fund balance provide in comparison to the budgeted expenditures for the next year. Because of the fact that city governments receive, for the general fund in particular, municipalities receive the majority of that revenue, a significant portion of that revenue, in 2 installments throughout the course of the year with the property tax settlements. So with the first settlement being in middle of May, to the county, and then the county, it's about a month or so, getting close to the end of June, first part of July, when those funds then get released out to the cities. So in order to cover cash flow for that first 6 months of the next fiscal year, you really need to have about 50% of unassigned fund balance on hand to cover that. And the way it calculates out is that if you take that unassigned fund balance, compare it to the budget for the next year, it's about 52% is where the city was at the end of 2024. So certainly a good result, nothing too excessive, but yet within the range that the state auditor's office provides of 35 to 55%, the city is certainly in a good position when it comes to that metric. Okay. Moving forward then, some detail about the revenue and expenditure trends for the general fund. As you'd expect, growth over the years. A couple of things to just to call out, especially in looking at 2023 compared to 24. On the revenue side, you can see it stayed almost about as flat as can be, but there's two offsetting factors. So the normal the property tax levy increase came into play. That was about $850,000 roughly. But then offsetting that, 2023 included a fairly large non-recurring public safety grant of about a similar amount, $820,000. So factor in those two offsetting items, and total revenue stays pretty much flat year over year. On the expenditure side, some rather significant increases. We'll look at the budget to actual results here in a following slide. Roughly a 10% increase year over year if you back out some like the capital outlay type things, and a lot of that was driven came within the different categories. So you think general government, public safety, public works. Most of it was in the general government category because of a few different things. The new ERP or computer system that came into play in 2024, a lot of the kind of initial costs tied to that were incurred, as well as some severance payments with regards to, tied to separations that occurred, and then just other non-recurring type expenses. Move forward here. Similar information just in bar graph form. Visuals are nice to provide a different look at it, but you can see there again just the trends year over year. The gap between revenue and expenses certainly is the closest it's been, for this within this most recent year of 2024. So then here, this looks at just the composition of the revenue sources. As I alluded to, property taxes making up a very significant percentage. I think it's about around 45%. And then the other piece that makes up another significant portion is the intergovernmental revenues for local government aid and other grants that would be coming through in the general fund. So again, that stayed fairly consistent year over year as far as that overall makeup, just a continued growth there in total. On the expenditure side, touched on this already as well, with the general government piece really having the most significant portion of that overall increase tied to those items that I noted. Okay, or budget to actual here. So on the revenue side, positive variance there of about $775,000. And the most significant piece of that overall positive variance is coming through in that miscellaneous line item. And what's driving that is the category that reflects the biggest item in there is investment earnings. So interest earnings on the CDs and other investment securities that the city has entered into as far as the general fund's share of that. And it's common practice to budget conservatively when it comes to investment earnings, just because you don't know, what the future is going to hold, with regards to interest rates, and there's also some fair value adjustments that come into play to mark those investments to market. So some swings that can happen there. So municipalities do budget conservatively, but 23, and then similarly in 24, certainly very, very positive results when it came to the investment earnings piece. Expenditure side, stayed very close to budget. Percentage-wise, it's just a couple percentage points. And the one thing I do want to call out is that within the capital outlay section, there is about $600,000, just shy of $600,000 of costs there, which really are offset by the $600,000 that's down towards the bottom of the screen in that lease and Sabita proceeds. Sabita's subscription-based IT arrangements. I'm not going to get into the weeds, but in essence, those are offsetting each other. So if you back that expense out up above, it's just the required presentation for it, is why it's shown this way. But expenditures would be almost exactly in line with what the budgeted amount was. Of course, some variances here and there across the different categories, but all in all, you know, indicator of very good fiscal management practices in place for the city to adhere with that budget that was put into place. So then just real quickly, looking at the various utility funds, for the water utility, the trend that we're seeing and kind of expecting as we went into our audits this past year, you know, thinking of the you know, the amount of precipitation that was you know, each year experienced. 2023 was a rather dry year. So as we saw across all the different municipalities we work with, the water utility revenues really jumped up in 2023. And then with 2024 not being as dry of a year, those irrigation, the usage came down, you know, quite notably. I think in Faribault's case, residential side, it was about a 10% decrease in usage. For commercial, it was about a 20% decrease on the usage side, offset by roughly 6% increases on the rates. So factoring both sides of that in ends up in a net decrease in the operating revenues for the water utility for comparing 23 to 24. On the expense side, 23 had some fairly significant non-recurring maintenance costs that were necessary for the water utility, so that jumped up. And now in 24 kind of came back down to a normal level for expenditures. So that coming into play with a notable drop on the expense side resulted in another positive, significantly, you know, positive year for generating operating income for that utility, which certainly is a optimal result to allow for being able to rely on some of that buildup of fund balance or net position to help with future capital needs. With utilities, there's always a need for you know, issuing debt as well to help supplement the costs of future projects. And I know in 2025 the city has issued some bonds for the water utility. But again, just being able to build up that fund balance position is important to help subsidize or help supplement those project costs. Here's cash and investments, as well as the unrestricted net position. So again, you can see a little bit of a dip in 23 because of some of those non-recurring costs that were coming through in that period, and now kind of coming back up and forming kind of in line with where it was, say, back in 2021. Okay. For the sewer utility, here not as significant of a decrease on the revenue side. There was a drop in with regards to industrial discharge, so that brought the revenues down slightly from where it was the previous year, but some rate increases there too to partially offset that. And then on the expense side, held fairly steady, about a 3% increase. And some of those costs, had it not been for the flooding, there was some added costs that came into play in 24. That hit for the sewer utility tied to the flooding incident. So without that, expenses would have been, you know, very much in line or even a slight decrease from the year before. And here as well with this fund generating positive operating income even after non-cash depreciation expense, and allowing for to build up that reserve again for future capital needs. Here, just again, trend on cash investments in the in the unrestricted net position. Nothing further to add there. Well, actually, I will add one thing. You can see it looks a little bit unusual because cash dropped down somewhat notably compared to, for 24 compared to 23, while the unrestricted net position stayed very much in line. The reason for that is because of the internal loan that was approved where the sewer utility has advanced or is in essence borrowing dollars to the park projects fund, capital projects fund for the viaduct park project. So and that'll get repaid over future years with interest to reimburse the sewer utility for that. Then the last utility, the stormwater fund. So again, they're really ramping up over the course of the last 5 years. Notable increases both on the revenue and the expense side from 23 to 24. Nothing real unusual, just anticipated rate increases that were known to come in, and then expenditures in line with budget as well. But really, yeah, over the 5 years, a lot of growth that's happened in terms of the dollars that are coming in related to the needs there for that utility. Cash and unrestricted net position, nothing further to add there. Again, tied to the previous comments, continued growth stemming from the operating results. So then the last graph that we have here is just taking a look at what has transpired over the last 5 years with regards to the city's tax rate. So looking at the trend for the tax capacity driven by the growth in the market value of property within the city, as well as then comparing that to the increases in the tax levy. Over the years presented, if my memory serves me right, the increase in the 5 years on the tax capacity was about 40%. And then on the levy side, over the course of that 5 year period, was about a 24% increase. Of course, from year to year, kind of jumping around, but that's what the overall percentage change was in that time period. So that with the tax capacity or the market values growing at a faster pace than the levy, allowing for that tax rate to continue to decline, going from 53 back in 2020 down to about 47 in 2024. So great news there for the city and for the residents, taxpayers, and such. Okay. So that is the information that I had for you. Sorry, I maybe got a little bit long-winded there, but just want to again thank the city for the opportunity to be of service with regards to your audit needs. Thank you to Jessica and her team for all the hard work that they put into the process. They were very well prepared. Some assistance provided by the Abdo firm as well, and really stayed on top of questions that we had, requests for further information, all of that. So we appreciate all that hard work that was put in by the folks at the city, and kudos on a job well done. So, okay, I'll take any questions that folks have.
Or to reading the full report.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
At this point in time, I'll take a motion on resolution 2025-244.
So moved.
Chuck as the motion, second by Adama, to approve resolution 2025-224, acceptance of the 2024 audited financial statement. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to our original item A, ordinance 2025-12, approving text amendments.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So the item in front of you is actually the second reading of this ordinance. There are two requests tonight. One is actually the approval of the second reading of the ordinance. The other is the summary publication that would go in the paper that would accompany this. The summary publication needs at least a 5/7 vote. But with that, I'm happy to take any questions about either of these.
Mayor Spooner.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-12.
A second.
Motion by Ross, second by Van Sluis to approve ordinance 2025-12. Zoning text amendments, chapter 3, nonconformities, second reading. A roll call.
Councilmember Barnes. Jumbuya. Ross.
Aye.
Rowan.
Aye.
Van Sluis.
Aye.
Teal.
Aye.
Mayor Spooner.
Aye. Approval of the publication.
So moved.
Second.
By Van Sluis, second by Teal. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. On to item B, Rice County. 4th Street Northwest, 2nd Avenue Northwest, conditional use permit variance. We have two of them right here, Harry.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Harry Davis, City Planning Manager.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Looks like we're trying to set up the presentation, but I'll just go in with the introduction. So there are two items in front of you tonight, conditional use permit and a variance. They are submitted by Matt Ganter on behalf of, I believe it's Faribault Real Estate, and the owner of the property is Rice County. The location for the conditional use permit and variances are near the corner of 4th Street Northwest and 2nd Avenue Northwest. You recently saw this as a pair of preliminary and final plats not too long ago. The proposal in front of you tonight is a conditional use permit and variance. Here's just a general location map, and then a little bit further on in terms of just the area that we're talking about. Now, the plats replatted all the properties that are within this block. Right now, what we're just focusing on is the bolded yellow area that you can see on your location map on the screen. And then this is a zoning map. It's not updated yet, but as a part of that preliminary and final plat process, you did rezone the parcels that are closest to 4th Street to Central Business District, or CBD, which will come in with the variance request. So the two requests, the conditional use permit is to construct a standalone parking lot on a parcel all on its own without a principal use. And that offsite parking will serve an adjacent proposed office use. The variance is for that office use, the building specifically. In the Central Business District, metal architectural panels are not allowed at all on a exterior building or on a building's exterior. And in this case, the applicant has initially requested up to 60 to 70%, depending on if we're including the rooftop screen of the facade, will be metal panels. So just super quickly, on the screen right now is the lots that are outlined in red. Lot 1 will be the office use, and Lot 2 is the bulk of the parking lot that will serve not just this adjacent office use, but will actually be publicly owned. At the end of it, I believe the city will be taking ownership of that parking lot, and so that parking lot will actually be a public amenity, not just for that adjacent office use, but serve the Rice County buildings and offices that are nearby, the city's police station that's just across 1st Avenue, and then any adjacent properties or nearby properties within downtown. With regards to the variances, so these are the building elevations that were submitted at the beginning of the project. The applicant has since submitted updated elevations that I'll show at the end, but these were what was initially submitted. So if we're not including the rooftop screen, which you can see is kind of this gray shaded area on top of each of the elevation views, we're just focusing on the building itself. It's about 60% of that facade is made up of metal architectural panels. Like I said, in the Central Business District, none is allowed. So that's the variance that we're going through today, and sort of what the general discussion is focused on. For the conditional use permit, generally when it comes to a standalone parking lot, in this case, the city will actually own that parking lot, and it'll be to the benefit of the public. It just has the added benefit of also supporting the adjacent office use. The criteria that a conditional use permit for a standalone parking facility would need is met. It will serve the greater community and the greater downtown area. So we are recommending in favor of that. The variance, staff's recommendation for this is that the criteria are met, and staff has provided findings that support this variance. This is a building that is not a Butler building, which the intent of not having metal at all on a building in the downtown and the central business district, that's really the intent behind why we have that requirement of no metal at all. This is not a Butler building. This is a well-designed, it's a architecturally interesting, and although it will be in contrast to, it will be a nice foil to what we have downtown, which is a lot of historic buildings. This is a brand new building that'll take up a good half of a city block, and so it'll have a pretty prominent location along 4th Street, but it will draw attention to and end up, in staff's opinion, supporting a lot of what our historic downtown looks like. Provide a nice foil to the rest of our downtown. It is outside of our Heritage Preservation District, and so it doesn't have that added layer of requirements for a new construction. So staff does see this as a variance worth granting. I'd be happy to go into any of the details if needed. Coming out of Planning Commission unanimously supported the conditional use permit. But with regards to the variance, there was one dissenting vote that felt that the findings provided by staff were not enough in order to grant a variance. But ultimately, in a 4-to-1 vote, Planning Commission did support the request in front of you. So generally, this meets our zoning requirements, and the findings in the resolution support that. So we are recommending that you approve both resolutions, one of them being 2025-236 for the conditional use permit, and the other being 2025-237 for the variance. And with that, I'm happy to take questions. And I'll just show
Any
the
questions for staff? Mr. Ross?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Davis, just pertaining to the parking lots, my understanding was the east parking lot was going to be primarily used for the police department. Is that still the case? Or is it just kind of first come, first serve for the general public? And
Sure, yeah, that's a very good question, thank you. So the parking lot will be owned by the city, and so the adjacent office use does, they do not have rights to those parking spaces except for the ones that are on their property. So we'll be essentially first come, first serve.
okay, so we're not having like a enclosed police lot similar to what we have behind their building, correct? It's going to be open.
Yeah, this is for the public, so this is not for
okay.
like parking of police cruisers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
Davis, I love the building. I think it looks beautiful. It'll be a great addition. I just have a question on the exit and entryway for the parking lot. It looks like it's facing 4th Street for exit and entry. Is that correct?
So that's not the only entrance and exit. So the other entrance and exit would actually be along 2nd Avenue, and it'll be sharing access with Rice County's property. So there are 2 entrances and exits.
My only concern is that is a really dangerous intersection because there is on-street parking, and I've been on that road many times where you can't see who's coming and who's not. I'm just curious if we can look into, instead of going out on Highway 60, which essentially is what it is, if we could change it to maybe a side street entry or exit only onto 4th Street.
Yes, Ms.
Can I,
Kinder.
so that has come up.
Okay.
But if it's kind of hard to see from the graphic that's presented, that driveway is currently existing on Highway 60, and it lines up directly with the large Sallyport overhead kind of underground storage that is the county's property. And so as there's been multiple parties and talking about all of these things, that was a desire on their part to see that driveway kind of lined up so they don't have to maneuver kind of around to get into their property.
Parking as well, which would make it safer.
Hopefully. Mm-hmm.
Mayor, if I could just add one thing to that. So we have tried a few times to solicit MnDOT for any input on that particular entrance. If we do end up hearing from MnDOT that they are not supportive of that, they would rather see that go. There is some discussion about having a First Avenue entrance and exit. So if that ends up being the case where MnDOT does not support it, then we do have a backup.
Any other questions for staff?
Your thoughts on it? You were on planning commission.
My thoughts, he laid it out that it's gonna be the cornerstone of downtown. I actually think it's gonna be an improvement to head west. I think there's more properties that we head west that need improvement. That development on the edge of that, I think it's gonna spur some properties along that way that need to be redeveloped, even worse than downtown. So I'm all in favor of it. All right,
Mayor Spooner.
first one, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-236.
Ross, second by Barnes. Conditional use permit for off-site standalone parking near 4th Street Northwest and 2nd Avenue Northwest. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed? That passes. On to the resolution. Second
Mayor Spooner,
one. Yes.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-237.
Second.
Second by Don Booya to approve resolution 2025-237, approval of variance for building facade materials on the corner of 4th Street Northwest and 2nd Avenue Northwest. All those in favor, say aye. All opposed? That passes. On to item C, resolution 2025-239. Harry Davis, once again.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Great. So the item in front of you is for a conditional use permit for a drive-through within C2 along Lindale. The applicant is Terrene Development Partners. The owner is Big and Little LLC. The location is on the northern end of Lindale Avenue. It's a conditional use permit. The location is here at the corner of 7th Street Northwest and Lindale Avenue North, and as well as Highway 21. This is the sort of a aerial of the property. The property is outlined in yellow. Here's what the general zoning looks like for adjacent properties. It's mostly commercial until you're looking at the other side of Lindale Avenue. The conditional use permit that's requested tonight is for a drive-through restaurant. It would end up being a Culver's restaurant that would like to be located here, and Culver is known for a drive-through. They would like a drive-through as a part of their restaurant. Here's the site plan that they have submitted and the elevations of what the building will look like on the exterior. Generally the conditional use permit is meeting the criteria for approval. They don't really have any residential properties nearby or in close proximity to worry about the speaker noise. And they will have a lot of adequate room for stacking on site. So a lot of our criteria and findings sort of reflect that. Planning Commission did unanimously support the request. They did hear a lot of public comment from adjacent properties along that private frontage road that fronts onto Lindale Avenue that's shared with a lot of properties going to the south of the subject property. Just a lot of concerns about traffic speed and congestion. The thing about that is that is a private road, so the city really doesn't have jurisdiction over it. The developers are working with those adjacent property owners in order to come up with a resolution. Might be with, coming up with different methods, whether it's speed bumps, posted speed limit, some screening for the drive-through with those adjacent properties. So they are working with those neighbors nearby. But generally, it does meet our zoning requirements, and so we are recommending that, and I do apologize for the typo, that City Council actually approve this resolution 2025-239. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions on this matter?
Mayor Spooner.
Yes.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2025-239.
Second.
Approval of a conditional use
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We are on to items D and E. We're gonna do them together, I would assume.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
That was my dad. That was my dad. That's
This is the second reading of the ordinances for Excel Energy for renewing an electric franchise as well as a gas franchise. There is really nothing new with this. The thing that I pointed out at the last meeting in the memo was that this enables us to have a franchise fee as part of these things. Those are established under separate ordinances, though. And so with each of these, there's also the summary publication, as this would be the second and final reading.
Thank you. Questions for staff? First one, ordinance 2025-13, and I'm not gonna read all that. The first one is.
Mayor Spooner,
Yes.
make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-13.
Second.
Rowan on the approval, Barnes on the second. All those in favor?
Councilmember Barnes. Dumbuya.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Rowan. Funslus.
Aye.
Teal.
Aye.
Mayor Spooner.
Aye. Next one.
Make a motion to approve ordinance 202.
Flipper.
Oh, the summary.
Yeah.
Approving the summary publication of ordinance 2025-13.
Second.
Motion by Rowan, second by Van Sluis to approve the summary publication.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Now on to ordinance 2025-.
Spooner,
Yes.
make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-14.
Second by Barnes on ordinance 2025-14. They do without you.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Dumbuya.
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Rowan.
Aye.
Funslus.
Aye.
Teal.
Aye.
Mayor Spooner.
Aye. On to the publication.
Mayor Spooner.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve summary publication for ordinance 2025-14.
Second.
By Ross, second by Van Sluis to approve the summary publication. All opposed? That passes. On to ordinance 2025-15. Ordinance versus regarding.
Yes, this is the second reading of an ordinance that basically provides that the lodging tax should be collected by the Commissioner of Revenue for the state of Minnesota on behalf of the city of Faribault. This is language that the Department of Revenue specifically said they needed to institute this. By passing this tonight, we will be able to provide the notice within 90 days to have them start making this collection as of January 1 of 2026.
Mayor Spooner. I make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-15.
Second.
Repeal and replace chapter 14.
Councilmember Barnes.
Aye.
Dumbuya. Ross.
Aye.
Rowan.
Aye.
Funslus.
Aye.
Teal.
Aye.
Mayor Spooner.
Aye. And approval of
Motion to approve summary publication of ordinance 2025-1.
Second.
Aye.
all opposed? That is passed. G, we're gonna move on. H, resolution 2025-2.
Yes, so this presentation that I am going to do will actually cover the next two items for the EDA preliminary tax levy and the HRA preliminary tax levy as well. This is very interesting to have the audit go first to see year-end 2024 stuff as we're talking about 2 years down the road and what that looks like. And so I will go through this as quickly as possible, but please ask questions. There were some minor changes which are reflected here. So this slide really tells you about kind of how the process goes. We get the initial market value from the county assessor, and then from there we get our tax capacity from which we reduce TIF amounts, and then we get our next net tax capacity. And so for 2026 we are seeing a 6.4% increase in market value and a 3.54% increase in net tax capacity. Then we determine what do we need to meet our needs, kind of related to a few specific areas being the general fund, community and economic development fund, tax abatements, and debt service. And so through that process, in total, 17.8, almost 17.9 million is what we need, which is a 10.3% increase over the total dollars that we had on the 2025 tax levy. So as was reported at our last work session, we were at 9% basically. I think we're 9.3 actually. So this went up just slightly due to an error in missing one department in the general fund. What that means is a 4.39% increase to property owners, which I think is always important as we're talking about percents to understand our percentage of revenue increase does not equal what happens to a property. And as we go through what happens to a property, and again, these assume that that there has been no market value increase, which tends not to be true. There tends to be some level of market value increase as well. $223,900 is the median value of a residential property in Faribault. And so with that, between 2025 actual and 2026 with no change, we're looking at a 4.39% increase in the revenue to the city from that individual property, or $45.91. So that's kind of a scale of how that revenue increase to us plays out with an individual property owner. It's also the same percentage on a commercial or industrial property. Commercial and industrial, we're assuming higher dollar values there. And so this just kind of gives you a look at what does that market value look like at some higher levels, and what does 4.39% look like from 2025 to 2026 with no change in market value. Looking at the tax rate history, I kind of wanted to, it's interesting kind of how that came out through the audit, because for 2025, we did go up. We're not using 50% of what's available, but we're very close to 50% of those total tax dollars that are available to us. For 2026, we're talking about just about 8% of the total tax dollars that are available for us is what we have here on the preliminary tax levy. And so you can see it's been a while since 2021 since we were kind of at that height, but that's where we find ourselves kind of as we move forward here. So the total tax levy we're talking about is 14.9 million, and it breaks down into these funds, which we'll go through further, with the general fund being the largest user of these dollars, as it's our largest fund, largest operating fund of the city. So when we look at the general fund for 2026, we have proposed expenditures of just about 24.7 million in total. When we look at that, revenues and expenditures being equal on that one, so it's the same. When we look at that, property tax revenue and what we need is 52% of revenues and expenditures, and I believe that he said for 2024 we were looking at 45%. So the property tax levy is looking at picking up a larger percentage of things. things, which I could see from this presentation from just updating 2025 numbers to 2026. We were about 51% last year, so, or for 2025, the current year. LGA is a very, local government aid is a very interesting thing. Ryan mentioned that as well. That is 28% of our general fund revenues, expenditures make up, which is a pretty significant thing to think about. LGA only increased by $16,632 this year. You'll recall it was in 2024, there was a significant bump that was about like, I think a $900,000 bump, but we're not seeing that from year to year. At this point for 2026, we're just happy there's not going to be any clawing back of those prior increases from the state. And so that's kind of where we are. But the thing that I want to point out, and it's, I would say all governments probably deal with this on some level, is that you have 80% of our revenue really coming from two sources. So when we talk about fees and fee schedules and stuff, those are things that are generally not making up a very significant portion of our revenue. Even though it's important to make sure we're recovering costs and things, there's really not any one fee change that we can make that's going to change the mix of revenue diversity kind of moving forward. And this is really similar to what 2025 was presented as well. So as LGA really kind of remains stagnant, 16,000, we appreciate the increase. We certainly do. The property tax levy is really picking up bigger portions of expense increases from year to year. And then the other thing that I just like to point out, and we'll keep talking about this as we get to the final levy, 18 million of that 24.7 million of expenditures is personnel costs. And so that's 73.4% of our total budget. When we looked at how this breaks down and where are we spending in kind of those general categories that Ryan mentioned previously, public safety is our biggest spending area with nearly 46% of the general fund. And then culture and recreation comes in number 2 at 23%. And then you have general government and public works really showing a similar percent. And you can probably barely see it on the far right side. There is this pink, very thin line that is our other, which is essentially just our unallocated costs that we have budgeted, as well as then our $12,000 a year for our transit contract with Hiawatha Land Transit. And I'd say this, when I was looking at what this was for 2025, very similar. There was very minimal change on this at all. So we're kind of staying constant in sort of where our expenses are. That is the general fund. When we look at Fund 240, which is our Community and Economic Development Fund, we are proposing $411,000, almost $412,000 of property tax revenue. There's very limited revenue possibilities in this fund, and I think as we move further down the road here, we should probably start talking about whether or not the activities in community and economic development should be in the general fund in order to just kind of eliminate this as something separate and review the pros and cons of that moving forward. The other revenues that are available to the Community and Economic Development Fund are administrative fees. We have $100,000 budgeted coming from the HRA, Robinwood, and public housing, as well as then what we had discussed at some of our last work sessions of $50,000 from EDA for this year as well. So that's essentially $150,000 that does not need to be on the tax levy because there's other sources that will be providing offsetting revenue to some of the costs that we have. This fund is seeing an increase of about $30,000 for expenditures, which puts us at about $563,000. This, when I went back and looked, this is really all personnel related. Dave runs a very tight ship up there and is always willing to try and find ways to save money. And but you can't when people are kind of your main expense, so that makes it more difficult. We talked about this earlier in the budget process, how there is a negative cash balance at the end of 2024, and that in this current fiscal year, we'll be transferring some dollars into that fund so that we don't need to put those on the tax levy. With the audit being complete now, we'll talk about that. The audit document really combines Fund 240 and Fund 239 tax abatement. So there's some working that we'll have to do on our back end to make sure that we have the correct number for that moving forward. But that is definitely still on the to-do list here for this year. Tax abatements are decreasing from 2025 to 2026. We are down to just 3 tax abatements right now, and that chart, though it's little, kind of gives you an idea of where we're at, and that realistically, by 2028, if you do nothing else, there will not be any other tax abatements to be added. However, that's not likely, as this has been one of our economic development tools that we've kind of been discussing in multiple scenarios in which it could be used for some continued development within the community. So I do see that there will be a point in time that this does start to increase again. What'll be interesting is the timing of when does a new property or a new renovation hit the tax rolls versus when does something pop off. And is 2028 going to be a year where things kind of spike because everything's there, but then you have a drop off the next year? The other thing we also have is the tax abatement bond that we've discussed for Viaduct Park. That will be showing up under here and not as debt service because it is part of our total tax abatement request that we can make for a year, which has essentially a 10% cap on it as part of our net tax capacity. So like 28 or 2.8 million is the most that we could ever request under tax abatement. As you can see, we're nowhere near that with 143,000. Debt service funds, we're happy to report there is no borrowing for equipment this year like we have the 2025 internal capital loan, an internal loan for capital equipment. The other thing that's really fun to point out here is that things are changing when it comes to debt service, less any future decisions that you make that still have to be decided on. And Councilmember Ross loves this chart, so I had to make sure that I got it in here. 2026 is our peak year. We're paying off a bond in 2027, another in 29, and another in 2030. I do think that there is a point in time that we should probably talk about sort of looking at the internal loan and deciding if, since things are falling off, do we want to remodify that to maybe add more principal on to pay that off sooner than 8 years. And I think that's entirely possible to do, but really depends on other conversations to be had around borrowing for the community center and a fire station, as well as just some other really big needs that we have coming up, like a public works building roof, as well as just some fire trucks that are about 4 or 5 years out as well that are not cheap either. So there will be more borrowing in the future. This graph doesn't show, it only shows what you have committed to at this point, and is that is truly outstanding debt. The HRA and the EDA levies, both boards have submitted a request for their maximum levy. You can see that's just about $440,000 for the HRA and $431,000 for the EDA. Neither board has finalized their budgets. My plan would be that in a work session in November, like we did last year, that the Economic Development Coordinator and the HRA Executive Director would really be presenting those budgets to you, and hopefully with some participation of the council members that are on each of those boards as well, and really talking about what those priorities are for the coming year. One thing that I'll just highlight here is, because we had it last year and I think we saw some usage of it, is the City of Faribault tax receipt. And I'm gonna pull it up here real quick just to show you it is live, and it is on our website. And so if we enter in that market value, whoops, I didn't want to add another. If we enter in that median home value, again, if we're using that as a market value, you're going to have a homestead exemption that would probably come off of that. The numbers are out there with the county currently that you can kind of do your own math to figure out what is your taxable value to enter in here, because it's the taxable value. But for the sake of time, just to show you here, we've got it broken down as to somebody that would have a taxable value of that $223,900 will be spending $22.51 on the city council next year, which does include some of the nonprofit contracts, I should say. And then as we get down, you can see there's a cost for police of $333. We get into public works as well, culture and recreation, which is really parks and rec and the library. as well as then other functions. So we've got our debt that this property would be paying $64.76 towards what we need to pay for debt, and then a few other things. So a total of $1,100. These are just examples. It's meant to be something that's educational about where does your money go, not to be a precise comparison from 2025 to 2026 and what does this mean in terms of percentage change. But it is live now, and so we will be pushing this out here to have things move forward with hopefully some property owners making sure that they can see where we spend our money, or where in our preliminary sense we have said we want to spend our money. Final thing, so next steps, we're rolling out the POCO tax receipt. We're not done with budget workshops. So we still have our special revenue funds and the utility funds to move through. We should be able to do those in October and November, given that we now do have the audit back, and a lot of what needed to happen with those is based on the audit. December 2nd is gonna be that last work session for you guys to review the final levy, and then December 9th is the council meeting at which the public hearing and final tax levy will be presented. Overall, I don't expect significant changes to the general fund, which is the majority of the tax levy, but we'll of course make adjustments as they keep coming in, and be talking to you about those as those come forward. But December 2nd, barring anything substantial, would be when that happens. So that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Yes, Mr. Ross.
Not necessarily a question. Thank you, Mayor. Not necessarily a question, Administrator, but just a comment for the thousands and thousands of people that are watching. You had a matrix up there that showed the home at a value of $223,000. I think their property tax, if their home stayed the same, went up like $34, and a little bit less than that, it was $30, $40, $50. We want to keep in mind that's an annual amount, not a monthly amount. So we're talking, you know, if your house did not increase in value at that median value, we're talking $3.75 a month.
Yeah,
just want to make note of that amount is not, it's an annual amount, not a monthly amount. The way people usually pay their taxes through escrow.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I think the other thing that is a good thing to bring up is we can control what we can control. So we can't control what other taxing entities are doing, but we do recognize that other taxing entities that are making decisions that impact property owners as a whole. And so that's where we can control what we can control. What we're proposing as a tax levy increase will certainly not reflect a total tax levy increase by the time the county and the school district have set their tax levies as well.
All right, we're gonna mow through these pretty fast. Adoption of the 2026 preliminary property tax levy.
So moved.
Second. Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 2025-248. Faribault Economic Development Authority 2026 preliminary tax levy.
So move.
Second.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 2025-249.
Moved.
Second.
Motion by Barnes, second by Van Sluis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. On to item K, 251, attorney.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Yes. And Honorable Council members. Sorry to you have before you our standard abatement resolution. However, it's got a lot of detail, and there's a reason it has a lot of detail. It's a property the city's been dealing with for quite some time. You have both chiefs out in the audience. They can help out if necessary, but what you have before you is our standard resolution. It also has an order in there that we would serve on the property. The problem is The owners, the actual owners of record are deceased at this point in time, but we have parties in the property. So we're gonna have some service issues. We want you to approve this resolution. I'll go through some of the items in there. But then it's gonna take us a little while to serve it. So just keep that in mind. It's not an immediate reaction here. Once it's served, there'll be 20 days for someone to respond. We'll have to figure out who that someone is. We have an idea of who's there, but we're going to serve the estate and other parties that may be in possession of the property. So keep that in mind. But again, what you have before you is a very detailed resolution. You also have a number of attachments that go with the staff report, or excuse me, the packet materials that are all these citations and letters that have gone out before. And I said all, but I shouldn't. It's not all of them. It's many of them that are supporting what's there and set forth in the resolution. We have pictures that are at the end of this presentation that we can jump to as well to show you what the property looks like. But in addition to that, we do have some body-worn camera that's also evidence relative to what's going on in the property. And they're serious violations, and we're looking at doing a civil action under both state statute and city code. Under state statute, it's the Hazardous Building Act, Chapter 463. Under our city code, there are various nuisance sections as well that apply. So we're going with a multitude of issues that are relative to this property. But I will refer in the resolution to the bottom of page 1 of the resolution. It starts with 2 whereas clauses that are rather lengthy, and then it rolls on to the next page 2 of the resolution. All of those are conditions that exist at the property that are in violation of either state statute or the city's code. List those all out for you. If you have any questions on those, I certainly can explain those in much more detail, and so can the chiefs if you need that done. But you can see there are an extensive number of violations existing at the existing under the city's code and state statute. That is the reason we're asking for you to approve the resolution to go forward with this matter. What happens once you adopt the resolution would be that city attorney's office, as well as our city staff, serve this order out, as I've said, and we prosecute it if there's no response. It allows you at that point in time to clean up the property and assess it back if in fact the parcel or the property is not cleaned up by who's ever there. Dealing with individuals on the property would be a separate issue, but it would be involved in this if we have to go forward with that as well. Not coming up, I see. Yeah.
It's on some of them. We're having an issue with that monitor.
Okay.
But it's on the screen.
Well, and I can go through as much detail as you want, but you've got a lot in the packet that you've seen. I can discuss that, but the resolution goes on for obviously 5 pages, as you see there, with an Exhibit A that starts on page 6, and then Exhibit B, which is the order, which is 3 pages long as well, that would be served out on this matter. Following the resolution, you have, as I said, the compliance letters and citations that have previously been provided, at least portions of them, to the property, as well as another report that's there. And then the last 3 pages for this matter show you depictions of what the property looks like. And I will tell you, in most cases, pictures don't do justice to what's there. If you're there in person, it's way worse. You don't have the body-worn cameras here to see what was there inside the property, but it's significant. Certainly our chiefs can attest to what that was there. It's a problematic property, and we're recommending you adopt the resolution.
All right, any questions for
Owner?
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2025-251, ordering the abatement of hazardous property and structures and public nuisances at 1422 First Avenue Northeast.
Second by Barnes.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Bids, we have none tonight. Boards, commission reports, announcements, project updates. Anyone? Yes.
Do. So, fire department is having an open house on October 5th at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Oh, excuse me, October 4th.
What did I say? Oh,
You said 6th, I believe.
oh, October 4th, it says 5th on here. Then Iris is going to be having a Lost Remembrance Day on October 15th. There'll be a farmer's market final market of the year, I guess, on October 25th. And Bats, Bones, and Bonfires will be at the Riverbend Nature Center October 25th from 2 to 5 p.m.
Ms. Barnes?
Yep, I have a few as well. Paradise Theater is hosting Joyanne Parker Band as they'll present the music of Patsy Cline. That's Friday, September 26th at 7:30 p.m. And then the Faribault High School Homecoming Parade is Friday, October 3rd at 2 p.m. 3rd and Long on 3rd Street. You can meet the Viking legend Tommy Kramer. That's this Friday from 6 to 9 downtown. And last but not the end. There's more. I know there's more. 100 Women Gather and Give. Sunday, October 5th. That's coming up. That's always a really good event and raises some good funds for our local businesses.
October 4th is the Fall Festival, coincides with the Fire Department Open House. I was approached by a local business to do chili feed again. I don't know why, but I said yes, and I said I would extend it to all of you people. If you'd like to chili, I will cook it, I will pay for it, I will do everything, but I will send you out next week. We do not have a meeting next week, so I will let you know the details. Okay, anyone else, anything? Administration? No meeting next week.
No meeting next week.
All right, let's entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Dumbuya, second by Van Sluis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Keith, could you send out the time of that?
Yes. I believe Rochelle will be sending out
Well,
something.
Okay.
So,
I get
yep.
these in the
right.
mail, and I'm like, what's
Okay.
going on? And I'm like,